What is going on, beautiful people? It is Thursday, August 24th. Number of topics to get to today. The Cardinals are having a fire sale, man. Stop by, see what they're over there pawning off, and see if you can pick up a few items while you're there, right? Injuries are starting to crop up. Teams are starting to trim down their rosters, or at least come up with a concept. Conceptually, they're visualizing their rosters. Moves are being made. Browns moved on from Kellen Mond, not a surprise. 49ers made a decision in their backup quarterback position. Wheels are turning, gears are turning. We're getting closer to the start of the 2023 NFL regular season. And with that, we're getting closer to starting the 358th installment of the Louie T Network podcast that starts now. As the calendar turns to August, it can only mean one thing. The NFL season is right around the corner. And with that in mind, the Louie T Network exclusives are back like cook crack. Choose from any of the three or all three of the LTN exclusives: Winners and Losers League, Soul Survivor Pool, Weekly Pick'em, all at your fingertips. Links are down in the description along with the video to help you sign up. Don't sit on the sideline. Get in the game. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 358th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. A lot to get to today. I want to start the show off today, though, by talking about something a little funny, man. I think it was last week. That I pulled a hammy. And I saw your jokes. I heard your jokes out there. And I told y'all, man, getting old is not fun. And it's real. Getting old is real. Okay. It's real out here in the field. And I saw a post today from Kevin Hart. So apparently Kevin Hart got into a verbal spat with Stephen Ridley, formerly of the New England Patriots, made his fame in college at LSU, was drafted by the Patriots, played about 4 or 5 years in the league. And Kevin Hart said to Stephen Ridley, "I'm faster than you. I can beat you in a race." So they decided to run a 40. And Kevin Hart tore his abdomen and his abductor muscle. And he cannot walk. He's in a wheelchair right now. And he's going to be down for 6 to 8 weeks, I believe. So he talked about getting old and what the hell was he thinking and this, that, and the third. And it just got me to thinking. Getting old ain't no joke. I'm trying to express this to you all out there, because you were laughing at me when all I did was I had a mild hamstring pull, right? I felt it. I felt the twinge and I shut it down. But he went a full blown, torn abdomen and abductor muscle. So it's not safe out here in these streets. The IR is touching non-athletes as well. Okay. Father Time is undefeated. So keep that in mind. Laugh all you want right now while you're 24 and you're 27, but just know your day is coming. All right. I'm just saying. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the gem dropping session today, shall we? I think we shall. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind. Let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T double E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So we've gone through 4 out of the 8 divisions. The 5th will happen on the NFC East SUPERFRIENDS stream on August the 30th. Today, we're going to knock down the 6th division, and then we'll only have 2 left, both being in the NFC. So this is the last AFC division. And after today's show, you will know all of the teams that I think are going to make the postseason in the AFC. Okay. So, with that said, AFC East, I think, is the most competitive division top to bottom in the AFC. And I think both East divisions in each respective conference are the two best divisions in their respective conferences, but in the league as a whole. The AFC North is knocking on the door, but I've got questions about that division, mainly Cleveland at the bottom and also the health of Joe Burrow. This new offense in Baltimore, don't know about it either. So there's some question marks in the AFC North. There aren't many question marks here in the AFC East, okay? You had two playoff teams a season ago. The other two were knocking on the door, and if not for health, at the quarterback position, the Jets would have made the playoffs last year. So now you upgrade the quarterback position. They did a lot this offseason, did the New York Jets. They've put themselves squarely in a position to make a run at the postseason and actually do damage when they get there. The Patriots, I feel like, have stabilized. They didn't do much to really upgrade their roster per se. I don't know how much better they've actually gotten. I can just tell you their offense is going to be better this year because they actually have a real offensive coordinator. So that's going to help the New England Patriots. So I just think top to bottom, this division is going to be brutal. They're going to beat each other up. And it's going to make this division much stronger at the end of the day. Iron sharpens iron. Want to know why the Giants were able to go to the playoffs, go on the road, and beat the Minnesota Vikings last year? Because they played in the toughest division in football. So it sharpened their skills, and it got to the postseason, and any team outside of the division looks like food at that point. So let's jump in. And let's talk about the AFC East. And we're going to start by talking about the team that really took over this division since Brady has departed. And I'm talking about the Buffalo Bills. Let's look at their offseason and what they did and talk about their draft as well and how we feel about the Bills going into the 2023 season. This was a 13-3 team a year ago, won the division, ended up with the number 2 overall seed in the AFC. You remember there was one game that was suspended due to, unforeseen circumstances surrounding Damar Hamlin. So they did not play the 17th game. So 13-3 for the Bills last year. Let's look at their offseason. And so players that they lost due to free agency. Let's take a look real quick and see. Roger Saffold no longer there. Case Keenum is now a Texan. But they went out and got Kyle Allen to back up Josh Allen. So the Allen and Allen connection now. Tremaine Edmonds, that's a big loss for that defense. He's now in Chicago with the Bears. Isaiah McKenzie now in Indianapolis as a Colt. Bobby Hart, depth on the offensive line now in Detroit. Let's see. Tywan Jones, core special teamer, no longer there. Let's see. Devin Singletary, Motor Singletary gone. He is now in Houston as well. So, again, another loss at the running back position. And that's pretty much it. Tommy Sweetie, a blocking tight end now with the New York Giants. So, not many losses there, but some of the losses were big ones. Motor Singletary and Tremaine Edmonds are your two big losses. And Jamison Crowder, too. Don't want to leave him out, even though he didn't have the type of impact Bills fans probably thought he was going to last season. He's now in New York with the Giants. Same with Cole Beasley. And neither one of those guys had a huge impact on the Bills a season ago. So now you look at the additions, and these are huge because the window of opportunity for Buffalo, I don't want to say it's closing, but at some point, you got your safeties in the back end, Poyer and Hyde. They're getting older, and as those young players continue to play, and it seems like at any point, Stephon Diggs seems volatile, and it seems like at any point he could explode. He seems very combustible at this point. So you don't know how many opportunities. A wise man once said, you don't know how many times you're really going to have a realistic shot to win a Super Bowl or a championship. He said, not a Super Bowl. He said a championship. And I find that to be very true. You don't really know how many times opportunities you're really truly going to get. And it feels like Buffalo has squandered a couple the last 2 years in particular. And this roster, while it's really good, it's not going to continue to get better. I think they really are making a push this year in particular with some of the moves that they made. Let's take a look at because the biggest issue for me was the lack of pass rush. It's always been one of the biggest issues that Buffalo has had. And so the first guy that you see on this list is Leonard Floyd, and that's a big acquisition. Von Miller getting hurt last year pretty much put you right back where you were before adding Von Miller in terms of pass rush. So adding a guy like Leonard Floyd from the Rams should help this pass rush. Re-signing Matt Milano, Jordan Poyer, redoing some deals and getting those guys back. Nyheim Hines, that's a really unfortunate situation with him with the injury there. Poona Ford comes over from Seattle. He's going to help you stop the run. You bring back a lot of guys. Jordan Phillip, Ed Oliver was a guy that we weren't sure if he was going to be back. He's back. Tim Settle. So you bring back pretty much your entire defensive line, add Poona Ford to the mix. Let's see. Kyle Allen, as I mentioned, comes over from Houston. So it's like you swap backup quarterbacks there. I think that's really an upgrade over Case Keenum, to be honest with you. Let's see. Shaq Lawson is back. He actually had a really strong season last year. Taylor Rapp is in Buffalo now, coming over from the Rams. Trent Sherfield is coming over from Miami at the receiver position. Latavius Murray, I just like Latavius Murray, man. Just a physical back kind of guy that if you're running a 4-minute offense late in the ball game, you could just hand it off to him and he can get it done for you. Damian Harris comes over from the Patriots. I always liked him. Health has always been an issue with him, but when he's healthy, I've really liked Damian Harris. Connor McGovern was one of the bigger signings in the offseason for the Buffalo Bills, coming over to try to help fortify that offensive line in front of Josh Allen. Traven Howard comes over at the linebacker position, so he's going to kind of give you a bit of relief there, a little bit of an athlete there at the linebacker position. Darrington Evans was a guy that I liked coming out of college, out of App State, just hasn't really manifested himself into anything after being drafted by Tennessee. Came from Chicago last year. We'll see what he does there. And that's pretty much it. So you look at the Bills roster, and let's look at their draft real quick. Dalton Kincaid at the tight end position was a big get in the first round. It felt like overkill, right? You've already got a really good tight end in Dawson Knox. Didn't think you needed to double up at the tight end position, but now you can have some pretty gnarly 2 tight end sets if you want to go that route. Osiris Torrance was a hell of a pickup in the second round. I felt like that was stealing, sort of like the Giants getting their hands on John Michael Schmidt when they did in the second round. Kind of felt like Osiris Torrance, which I thought he was a second round pick. I just didn't think he was late second round. This is sort of stealing there. That's an excellent pick. Dorian Williams, another athletically gifted linebacker out of Tulane. Justin Shorter adds some more speed at the receiver position. So you see what they did in the draft. They really helped their football team. And these are guys that they probably expect to come in and help right away. So this is a good Bills football team. They were already before these moves in the offseason. They're in a position. The biggest question is, again, defensively, can they stay healthy? They had a ton of injuries on the defensive side of the football last year. Can they get the production out of the defense when they need it most? Because we know offensively they can score points. And then the other question is, can Josh Allen, the run game, and their offensive coordinator kind of get all on the same page? I thought there was a disconnect last year. You lose your offensive coordinator to a head coaching job in New York, and it kind of felt like there was a bit of disconnect last year in terms of what the philosophical approach was going to be, how they were going to go about moving the football. Everything seemed like it was either deep or nothing. There needs to be some semblance of balance, and they're hoping they can get that this year with Ken Dorsey in his second year as the OC. So let's take a look at the Bills' schedule and see what it looks like. So right out of the gates, we're going to get a big, massive AFC East showdown. And that's going to be a fun one. Week 1, 9/11. Obviously, there's some reasoning behind why they did what they did, putting a New York team on Monday Night Football. It just so happens to be the Jets, and they're the biggest story in the NFL this year, with Aaron Rodgers being added to that football team and them being on Hard Knocks. So that's a heavyweight fight right in week number one. Jets hosting these Buffalo Bills. And right away, the Bills need to establish that we the Don Dada in this division, not you. Okay, yeah, I know the story is cool and you're feeling really good about yourself. Well, let me knock you down a couple notches and let you know this is our shit. This is the game where you set the tone for the entire season and the division. If you're Buffalo, you go in there and you put your foot down. And like you did last year, week one, Thursday Night Football, Rams were getting their rings. They thought, or dropping the banner. They thought shit was sweet, and you went in there and you stomped a mud hole in them. That's what you need to go and do to the Jets this year, week one, in their building, Monday Night Football. Week two, you're home for the Raiders. Week three, you're at the Commanders. Week four, you're home for the Dolphins. Week five, you're over in London against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Week six, Sunday Night Football, home for the New York Giants. So that's a really, really fascinating stretch of football to start those first six games. Really, we can add in the seventh game, week seven, you're home or on the road at the New England Patriots. So 3 of your first 7 are against divisional opponents. And again, you're playing the NFC East this year. So it's going to be interesting to see how this division as a whole fares against what I think is the toughest division in football. And the 2 toughest divisions really pitting against one another. We're going to find out who reigns supreme there. And you got 2 NFC East teams right out of the gate in the first 7 weeks as well. So 3 division games, 2 against 2 NFC East games. That should be interesting. And a London game as well in that mix. After the Patriots on the road in week 7, you're on Thursday Night Football, home for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. After that, Sunday Night Football, once again, this time you're at Cincinnati. This is a rematch of the game that was suspended due to the Damar Hamlin situation. So that's going to be a big game. And again, those types of games, you don't really actually know in the moment, but we know if those 2 teams are healthy and the quarterback situations there are straight, those teams are going to be in the mix at the end. So that game is probably going to have playoff implications, just like the one last year late in the season would have had that game met its conclusion. So that's a big one in week 9 on the road, Sunday Night Football at Cincinnati in the jungle. The following week, Monday Night Football, home for the Denver Broncos. So you're seeing a trend here. First of all, that's 3 straight primetime games for the Buffalo Bills. So you see that they're a media and an NFL darling there by getting 3 straight primetime games. And, 3 out of the 4 primetime, they've had 5 primetime games already. So they've met their quota already with this 3rd and final game in a row. 5 primetimers, 3 of them are at home. So NFL really liking the Bills this year, and rightfully so. Then you have a week number 11 contest versus the Jets at home. So you're done with the Jets in week number 11. That'll be a big one at home. Week number 12, you have the Eagles on the road right before your bye. So week 13 bye is really late in the season. And I always look at late buys like this. One of 2 things can come of a late season bye. Either you're worn down, you're beat up, and you're looking forward to that bye, and you're going to use that bye to really propel you to the finish line and really recharge the battery. Like, what this really feels like the Buccaneers. I always look at the Buccaneers as my example of what a bye can do for you late in the season. Brady's first year in Tampa, they had the late season bye. They were kind of struggling. Remember, they got blown out by New Orleans on Sunday Night Football for everybody to see. They hit that late season bye. They come off the bye, and they hit this reset button. They come out and they're scoring 35 plus on everybody's head, blowing everybody out, took that momentum into the playoffs and ran through the entire NFC en route to the Super Bowl, destroyed the Chiefs and hoisted the Lombardi. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen for Buffalo, but that's what you're looking to do with a week 13 bye if you're the Bills. Come off the bye week 14, you're at Kansas City. So your bye literally is sandwiched in between the 2 teams that represented their individual conferences in the Super Bowl last year, and they're both on the road. So again, this is a really tough stretch of ball when you look at it, starting probably with that Bengals game on the road in week 9. That's a murderer's stretch of football, murderer's row stretch of football. Week 9 Bengals, week 10 Broncos, week 11 Jets, week 12 Eagles, bye week, come off the bye week, week 14 Chiefs, week 15 home for Dallas. The week after that, Chargers on the road, then New England in week 17 at home, and then you finish up the season on the road at Miami. That is the meat and potatoes of your schedule right there. Weeks 9 to the finish line. Whew. We're going to find out how good Buffalo is. So what I'm telling you is you better stockpile some dubs and gain confidence at the beginning of the season because, whoa, it gets real. Starting with week 9. Yikes. So despite everything I just said, I trust Josh Allen. I trust, Sean McDermott, their head coach. I trust their offensive firepower. And I think defensively, again, they got to stay healthy. And I can't say that they will stay healthy, but I told you I'm assuming health when I do this. I think the Bills are going to be a damn good football team again. But they're going to get knocked down a peg. They were 13-3 last year. They're playing as you can see, a much tougher schedule this season. Much tougher division in the NFC East this season. Not the NFC West, who they dominated last year. So with that said, I am going to say that this is a 12-5 team this year, are the Buffalo Bills. So did they play the NFC West last year? I think that was 2 years ago. That was when DeAndre Hopkins had that crazy catch. That was 2 years ago when they played the NFC West. Anyway, who did they play? Did they play They played the NFC North last year, which wasn't a good division. The Bears, the Vikings, the Packers, and the Lions, if I'm not mistaken. That's the division they played last year, I think. So anyway, 12-5 for the Bills. We'll see if that's good enough to win this division for what? What is this? What would this be? The fourth straight year? I think it's been 3 straight years. 3 years ago, they were in the NFC Championship. 2 years ago, they lost to whom? To the Chiefs in the divisional round. That's what spawned the overtime rule. Last year, they lost in the divisional round to the Cincinnati Bengals. So it's been 3 straight years they've won the AFC East. We'll see if they can make it a 4th. So let's take a look at the team that finished second in this division last year, and that would be the Miami Dolphins. They've made some additions to their football team. Unfortunately, one has gone awry already, but nonetheless, let's take a look at this Dolphins team. Second year under their head coach, Mike McDaniel. I think they feel really good about who they are as an offensive football team. Defensively, I think they felt like they needed to upgrade a few things, and they definitely needed to upgrade the backup quarterback position. They did that this offseason. So let's take a look at the Dolphins. They were a 9-8 team last season, 9-8. So, but they made the playoffs. Keep in mind, they made the playoffs last year and almost went to Buffalo with a 3rd-string quarterback and beat the Bills. That's how you knew the Bills weren't clicking on all cylinders. They almost lost that game in Wild Card Weekend at home to a 3rd-string quarterback. Nonetheless, let's take a look at the losses for the Dolphins from a roster standpoint. Byron Jones has retired. Let's see. Mike Gesicki, who was on a franchise tag last year, is now in New England. Teddy Bridgewater, who was one of your backups but couldn't stay healthy, is now in Detroit. Eric Rowe is now in Carolina. Melvin Ingram is not on the football team right now. Eric Fisher, same deal. Landon Roberts is now a Pittsburgh Steeler. Mike White is acquisition, not a loss. That's a big one. We'll get to that one a little bit later on. Trey Flowers is now back with New England, probably where he belongs. You didn't get what you thought you were going to get out of him. And so he's probably going to play really well now, and you're going to be pissed. Let's see if there are any more notable losses. Hunter Long, blocking tight end, now a Ram. Trent Sherfield is now a Buffalo Bill. Michael Dieter is now a Houston Texan. So those are your losses. Again, nothing really earth-shattering there. Let's take a look at your additions this season. Jalen Ramsey was the big one. You traded for him, and he's already injured. He is trying to get back by December. We'll see if he's able to do that. That was supposed to be the big acquisition that was supposed to level the playing field for you against all that offensive firepower that exists in that division with the Jets and with the Bills in particular. That was going to allow you to have a tandem of Ramsey and the Baylor corner. Xavier Howard. And that was supposed to give you what you thought you were going to get when you signed Byron Jones. And now Ramsey's out. So you're back to kind of square one there. We'll see how that works out. Chosen Anderson comes over from Arizona. So that gives you a hell of a trio. If he's healthy and he's locked in mentally, he is a hell of a third option behind Waddle and Hill. Braxton Berrios comes over from the Jets. I love that acquisition there. Gives you a guy that can return kicks, a dynamic slot option. That's a really good addition to your football team there. Eli Apple comes over. He's only here because of the injury to Ramsey. So he's a sort of a placeholder, if you will. You bring back Durham Smythe at the tight end position. Jake Bailey comes over. The Patriots love them, a left-footed punter. So more than likely, he's going to come in here, be your punter. Let's see. Mike White was one of my favorite acquisitions of any team acquiring a backup quarterback. I think he's one of the better backup quarterbacks in the NFL. And that was your issue last year. And knowing Tua's injury history going all the way back to Alabama, he's probably going to play at some point this year as Mike White. So I thought it was critical that you go out and acquire a big-time backup quarterback, and that's what you did. And I think that was probably your most shrewd move of the offseason, if you ask me. Raheem Mostert is back despite his injury history. I think a lot of Dolphins fans were looking for them to upgrade the running back position, and it just never happened for whatever reason. So Mostert is going to be your lead dog until he gets injured. Let's knock on some wood. Hopefully he doesn't get injured this season. See. Also lost your punter, Thomas Morstead. I missed that one. So that's why you went out and got Jake Bailey to come in and punt the football for you. Eric Saubert is going to come in and provide you some blocking. See. Deshaun Elliott is a solid depth piece at safety. Jeff Wilson is back at the running back position. So all of the usual suspects at running back are back for this Dolphins football team. Salvon Ahmed, love saying his name. So the draft was pretty compact, as you can see. Bread, egg, cheese, milk type draft, in and out. Second round pick, Cam Smith out of South Carolina. So again, adding more pieces to that secondary. Devon A-Chain already got injured, shoulder injury in the second game of the preseason against the Texans. Hopefully he'll be okay. Elijah Higgins, wide receiver out of Stanford, and Ryan Hayes, tackle out of Michigan. So only 4 players selected in the draft. But this is a football team that they're ready to win, right? So the draft was going to be solid for them. But when you're in the position that the Dolphins are in, similar to the Bills, it's less about draft picks because those guys generally don't come in and have the type of impact that you're looking for immediately. It's more about free agents. When you're at the stage where the Bills are, potentially where the Dolphins feel like they may be, where we're ready to win and do something right now, you're looking for free agents. You're looking for big name guys to come in, which is why you go out and get a Jalen Ramsey, right? That's why you add a player like that, because you're looking for somebody to put you over the top. So draft picks aren't necessarily going to do that for you, right? Normally, that's the case. So, but I love Devin A-Chain, and he would have easily been their best back. If he can stay healthy, he's going to be a problem. So, let's take a look at this schedule for the Miami Dolphins. And week one, you are week one Chargers, right? Week number two, Sunday Night Football, Patriots. So the first two games you're at home if you're the Dolphins. Week three, you are at the Denver Broncos. Week four, you are home for the Buffalo Bills. Let me double check, make sure home and away are right. So week four, Bills. So the white ones are home games. So you start out on the road week one at the Chargers, week two at New England on Sunday Night Football. Your first home game is week three, the Denver Broncos. Week four on the road at Buffalo. Week five, you're home for the New York Giants. Week six, home for the Carolina Panthers. Week seven, you're at the Philadelphia Eagles on a Sunday night. Week eight, you are home for the New England Patriots. Week nine, you're at Kansas City on international game. So that's going to be over across the pond. And then you hit your week 10 bye. Let's kind of stop there for a second and take a look at the schedule. So in the first four games, you play two AFC East opponents, both on the road. So and your first 3 out of 4 are on the road. So right there, it's not going to be easy out of the gates. You're going to have to navigate that start to the schedule. You lost to the Chargers last year. The Patriots are never easy for you, and the Bills are going to be tough on the road. So you're going to have to figure some things out right away as this season gets underway. Then you hit a couple of NFC East teams in the Giants and the Eagles. You see the Super Bowl defending champions across the pond. So that's going to be a tough start to the season. The first 9 weeks are no pushover. So you're going to have to figure some things out. You do get a stretch there where you get 3 out of 4 at home after starting the season, 3 out of 4 on the road. So there is a consolation prize there. You come off the bye. Week 11, you're home for the Raiders. Week 12, you're at the Jets. Week 13, you're at Washington. Week 14, home for the Tennessee Titans on Monday Night Football. Week 15, home for the Jets. Week 16, home for Dallas. Let's stop right there. 3 in a row at home. This is a very quirky schedule. I don't like quirky schedules, okay? And this is a very, very quirky schedule. You got 4 out of your final 5 games at home. I mean, yikes. So that means you're doing a lot of, traveling before those 4 out of 5, come your way. So, I mean, yikes. Got to take advantage of that schedule, obviously. But the thing I don't like about that is if these road games stack up and they become overwhelming, those home games at the end of the season may not matter. You see what I'm saying? Yikes. 4 out of 5 to finish up at home. Titans on a Monday night at home. Jets week 15 at home. Cowboys week 16 at home. At the Ravens week 17. You finish up with Buffalo at the crib in week number 18. All that said, I like this Dolphins football team. And again, if they didn't have Mike White, I'd be a lot lower on them. But because I know Mike White can come in, run that offense, be effective, get the ball to the playmakers, whether Tua's healthy or not, this Dolphins team is going to be in the mix. I got this Dolphins team who was 9-8 a season ago. I got them at 10-7 this year. There are enough games on this schedule that I think they can handle themselves. Games like Carolina, and I think Denver could easily be food for them. The Raiders are, a very winnable football game. We'll see what they do against Washington. Tennessee is a very winnable football game. So I think there are enough of those. They got to handle business within the division as well. We'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, there's some winnable football games on this schedule. And I think they'll do enough damage within the division to stay afloat and find themselves at 10-7. And that's going to be good enough for a wild card in the AFC, the final wild card in the AFC. So let's get to the next team in the division. That's the New England Patriots, who finished third in this division a season ago at 8-9. Despite all of the issues with the play calling and all of that hand wringing from last season, they still finished 8-9. So as you can see, a very hardy draft class coming in. They did not do a whole hell of a lot in free agency this year. Let's take a look at they lost a lot of guys, as a matter of fact, but let's take a look at what the Patriots did in the offseason. Let's start with the losses from a roster standpoint. Jonnu Smith, that didn't work out the way that they thought. They went out and got Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, 3 years ago in free agency, 3 years ago in free agency, and they thought they were about to have that, recreate that 2 tight end set they had with Gronk and Hernandez, and it just did not come to fruition. Nelson Aguilar had one really strong year in New England and then nothing. He's a Raven now. Let's see. Bring back, we'll get to those later. Jacoby Myers, that was a big loss. I know you went out and got Juju Smith-Schuster, but Jacoby Myers was a big loss. Jake Bailey is gone. He's now in Miami. Jacoby Myers is now in Vegas, reuniting with his former offensive coordinator there. Isaiah Wynn is now in Miami. He's a Dolphin. How did I miss that? We just talked about the Dolphins. I don't recall seeing his name on their list. Anyway, that's a big ad for the Dolphins. Brian Hoyer is now in Vegas. Go figure. He's there with Josh McDaniel. No more Marcus Cannon. He'd been there forever, it felt like. Jawan Williams is now in Minnesota, the cornerback position. Let's see. Damian Harris is now in Buffalo. We talked about that earlier. All right. So now we get to the additions. They just signed Zeke Elliott a week ago. Seems like about a week ago. So that's a nice addition there. And physical back, short yardage, down by the goal line. He's money in those situations. They redid the contract of Matthew Judon, who wanted a little bit more money. Good for him. He's their best defender by far, so they needed to get that done. Mike Gesicki is a big ad. I think he's such an athletically gifted tight end, so that's going to give them another piece at the tight end position. Devontae Parker back at the receiver position. Jonathan Jones, Jalen Mills, who is a Swiss Army knife in the secondary, he's back. Juju Smith-Schuster was brought in to offset the loss of Jacoby Myers. So we'll see if that switch and that swap out works in the favor of the New England Patriots. Riley Reif comes over and helps fortify the offensive line after losing guys like Isaiah Wynn and company. Let's see. Calvin Anderson is another depth piece on the offensive line. Trey Flowers is back. He's going to end up being really good for them. Watch. Certain players just play better in New England, like Kyle Van Noy, for instance. They just, for whatever reason, he's another one of those guys, I think. Anthony Ferkser comes over from, that's a sneaky good signing there, comes over from the Falcons. Let's see if there are any more. All right, so nothing else really stands out. As you can see, this is a very, very hardy draft, as I mentioned earlier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 players selected. Christian Gonzalez heads up the class. Keon White is a physical edge rusher that's extremely raw with some freaky athletic traits. We'll see how he develops in New England. Marte Mapu out of Ohio State. Jake Andrews out of Troy. Chad Ryland is going to come in and be their place kicker. They've had some issues there. Once Steven Gostkowski, who was there forever, left, they've had some issues. So they're looking for him to come in, solidify that position for them. Antonio Mafi, Sidi Sow, along the offensive line. Keishon Butte, a lot of people, forget about him. This was a guy that was so highly recruited coming out of high school, had an injury at LSU, was never really the same. If he can get back to what he once was, this could be a steal in the 6th round. No, like I said, they love left-footed punters. I wonder if this guy, Bryce Behringer, is left-footed. He looks like in the picture he's right-footed, but we'll see how that goes. Demario Douglas is a guy that can offer you some, punt return ability as well as some receiving ability. Amir Speed and Isaiah Bolden, who had a scary injury in the preseason. They actually, postponed, or they canceled the rest of the game essentially when he had the head injury in that game in the preseason. So that's a hell of a draft class, and we'll see how these guys turn out for the Patriots. But let's take a look at the Patriots schedule. And week 1, this is the I call this the Brady game, because they're going to retire Brady's jersey and honor him. So that you expect that week 1 matchup to be lit. And this is a road game here, or excuse me, a home game, obviously, week 1. So that's going to be interesting. They're going to be ginned up. That crowd is going to be juiced up. The Eagles are the runner-up in the NFL, best team in the NFC a season ago. I want to see how the Patriots handle that situation. I want to see how the Eagles handle that situation. Week 2, Sunday Night Football, home for the Dolphins. Week 3 at the Jets. Week 4 at the Dallas Cowboys. Can we just, and you know what? Let's add in this Saints game, home for the Saints week 5. Can we just stop right there and say this is brutal to start? Like, damn. Can we just say that? All right. Like, playoff team from last year, Super Bowl team from last year, playoff team from last year, team that we think is going to be really good in the Jets, playoff team from last year, and a team that we think is going to be a playoff team this year in the Saints. Like that, this is not easy to start. 5 really tough games right out of the gate. The good thing is 3 out of the 5 are at home, and the first 2 are at home. So you got to take advantage of some home cooking early in the season. At the Raiders week 6, home for the Bills in week 7, at the Dolphins week 8, home for Washington week 9, and then you're over in Germany in week 10 against the Indianapolis Colts, after which you have a week 11 bye. You come off the bye, you're at the Giants week 12, home for the Chargers week 13, at the Pittsburgh Steelers week 14, home for the Chiefs week 15, at Denver week 16, at Buffalo week 17, home for the Jets week number 18. So honestly speaking, this is a doable schedule. Like in terms of like there's a quirk here, obviously 3 out of 4 on the road, and some tough games to start, that kind of thing. But it's pretty much home away. They don't really overwhelm you with anything crazy on this schedule for the most part. There is a game across the pond, but you immediately thereafter get a bye, after you play in Germany. Not everybody gets a bye after their international game. So I think this is, again, it's not an easy schedule by any stretch of the imagination. I just think it's a doable schedule. I just don't, again, the Patriots are solid. I don't think they're good enough to handle the teams on this schedule when it's all said and done. But they're going to be in some ball games. We know Belichick's going to coach up that defense. And I think offensively, they're going to be a lot more formidable this year. But still, with all that said, I think they were 8-9 last year. I think they're 8-9 again this year. I could see them being 9-8. I can't see them being a double-digit win team with this schedule, though. With these teams, with the NFC East, with the AFC East being as tough as it is, with the Steelers being on the roster, on the schedule for them, the Chargers being on the schedule for them, I don't see them, being what they probably want to be, which is a playoff team. This is going to be tough on them, but we'll see. This is a big season for Mac Jones as well. Big season for him. 8-9 for the New England Patriots. And then finally, the team that finished last in this division at 7-10 a season ago, the New York Jets. So obviously, we know the Jets are, the biggest attraction this year. The Jets are in 2023 what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady were in 2020. And so a lot is going to be made of this Jets football team. A lot of people want to see them fall flat on their face. There's going to be a lot that goes with being the Jets this year. You're going to be one of those teams that other teams circle on their calendar as they get up for you. The Chiefs are going to be one of those measuring stick type teams. I think the Jets are going to be viewed because they're on Hard Knocks, because they added Aaron Rodgers, because there's so much hype surrounding this Jets team. I think they're another team that other teams around the league are going to get up, and that is emotionally taxing and draining when you're getting, and I know this sounds crazy, but you're getting the best every single week. That's tough. And only the best teams survive when they're faced with that. Because when you're a lesser team, it's human nature to let your guard down when you see the Bears on the schedule and the Bears are 3-7. You're like, nah, we should be able to beat them. And you may not get the best effort, and the Bears may be able to sneak up and bite you, right? A great example of that last year, the Chiefs went into Houston and they sleptwalked for 4 quarters and barely got that game to overtime and barely won the game in overtime. You know why? They were playing a 1-win Houston Texans team. It's hard to get up when you're that good and they're that bad. You're not going to get that with the Jets. It doesn't matter what the Jets are. Everybody's going to give them their best effort. So I want to see how they handle all of that is going to come with the fanfare and the attention that is coming their way. Obviously, Hard Knocks started it. Aaron Rodgers, all of that good stuff. Let's talk about and they were busy this year. The Jets, they look at their division. They see how good the Bills are. They see how the Dolphins have built their roster. They know how tough things are in this division. And it looks like they're trying to match everybody else's roster and intensity with moves of their own. They're pushing their chips to the center of the table, are the Jets. They're all in for a chip. Let's look at what they've done this offseason. Let's start with the guys that they've lost, however. George Fant is a big loss, on that offensive line. He really stepped up when they had issues up front with guys being able to stay healthy, most notably Mekhi Becton. Braxton Berrios is another tough loss, but trust me, they've done a lot at the receiver position. They just lost another receiver today. We'll talk about that here in a second. Sheldon Rankins, goes over from the Jets to the Texans. So a guy in the middle of that defense, physical presence against the run, no longer there. Joe Flacco, no longer there as a backup quarterback. Don't need him if everything goes according to plan. Dan Feeney no longer there on the offensive line. No more Mike White at the quarterback position. We talked about that already. Elijah Moore, that was a frustrating situation. I'm an Elijah Moore fan. Never really understood what truly happened there and why that didn't work out. But they moved him, traded him to the Browns. Hopefully he gets a new lease on life there and is able to thrive in Cleveland's system. Let's see. Denzel Mims, that had disaster written all over it from the word go. It was a nasty situation last year, and they finally found resolution. He's now in Detroit. Nate Herbig is now in Pittsburgh. Quan Alexander now in Pittsburgh as well. Let's see. Cedric Ogbuehi is now in Miami. Laurent Duvernay-Tardif. I just wanted to say his name. He's not on the roster right now. He might have retired. He's a doctor. We know all of that good stuff with him. Let's see. Nathan Shepard is now a Saint, so another guy on that defensive line gone. And I think that is the last notable. Braden Mann, no longer there. He's now a Steeler. That's about it. Ty Johnson is now a Bill, but that's not really important. So now you look at all the acquisitions. Let me also mention Corey Davis retired today. And he always struck me as a guy that didn't love football. He always did strike me as a guy that I never knew if he loved football or not. And he just said, you know what? I made a lot of money. In 6 years, I made $57 million. I'm good. You know what? I'm good. If I never play another snap of ball, I'm good. And clearly he's good. He's done. So the receiver position just took a little bit of a hit, but they got a ton of receivers, man. So they'll be fine. Obviously, the biggest acquisition is Aaron Rodgers coming over from the Packers. And so that's a big deal there. That's why everybody thinks that this team can compete and potentially win a Super Bowl. You bring back Carl Lawson. Dalvin Cook was another big offseason acquisition, just acquired him about a week ago or so. So that's going to help bolster what I already thought was a really strong rushing attack once you get back Breece Hall, who was just cleared not too long ago to resume football activity. So I just think that they're loaded at the running back position. Adrian Amos comes over with Aaron Rodgers at the safety position. See Connor McGovern back to get a big deal done with Quinnen Williams, who's one of the better defensive tackles in all of football. Jordan Whitehead is brought back at the safety position. Chuck Clark comes over from the Ravens, one of those strong veteran presence in the locker room. Quentin Jefferson comes over, really solid defensive line depth there, helps that D-line. Wes Schweitzer, love him to death. As a Commanders fan, you're going to get a Swiss Army knife on the interior of this offensive line. Tough guy, really good football player. He's going to help that offensive line. He's starting at center for them. I don't love him at center. His best position is guard, but he'll get the job done. Al Woods comes over, premier run-stopping defensive tackle in the NFL. Alan Lazard comes over again from Green Bay at the receiver position, got a nice little 4-year, $40 million deal. Randall Cobb also comes over with his boy, Aaron Rodgers, at the receiver position. So as you can see, they got receivers, with the Ohio State receiver already in tow, Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb. They got stuff at the receiver position. They'll be fine. Let's see. Billy Turner comes over from Denver, and he's, again, another Swiss Army knife, a jack of all trades, can do just about everything on the offensive line. So he'll help. Bring back Solomon Thomas, Greg Zuerlein. Let's see. Thomas Morstead comes over from the Dolphins. Mecole Hardman, I talked about receivers. There's another one. I think he just got injured, though, if I'm not mistaken. I hope I'm wrong about that. But whatever the case may be, that's another weapon at the receiver position, which is why Corey Davis is expendable. You want him there, but you're not hurting. You got plenty of receivers. It's another big offseason acquisition there. Dane Cruikshank comes over from the Bears as a reserve and a key special teams player. Let's see. I think that's the last big-time addition. So Will McDonald IV, who I thought was the most polished pass rusher in this year's draft class. I said the same thing about Harold Landry, and we see how he turned out. So we'll see if Will McDonald turns out to be the same thing there. Joe Tippmann on the offensive line at center, Carter Warren, Israel Abakanda. I love this guy. He's going to add a ton of speed to that running back room. Zach Kuntz out of Old Dominion, fellow Monarch in the 7th round at the tight end position. So this is a quality draft here for the Jets. 7 players, but it's all about Aaron Rodgers. It's all about this offense. This was one of the best defenses in football last year. So it's all about the offense and the addition, of Aaron Rodgers. So let's take a look at the Jets schedule. And right off the bat, we already know this year is going to be full of the Jets. The Jets are going to be on primetime television. You're only supposed to be up there 5 times. They're going to be on 6 times. Okay. So this year they're introducing Black Friday, and the Jets are on Black Friday as well. So you're going to just be mindful. Lot of Jets, right? So week 1, right out of the gates, 9-11, of course, you're going to have a couple of teams from New York, but the Jets are on Monday Night Football at home week 1 against the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football. Week 2, at Dallas. That's going to be a big one. That'll probably be the game of the week. Doubleheader on CBS. They'll be at Dallas week 2. Week 3, home for the Patriots. Week 4, home for the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. That will be a massive matchup. We have been deprived of Rodgers v. Mahomes for the duration of Mahomes' career. Every single time we were supposed to get these two matched up, one of them did not play. The first time Mahomes didn't play and they were able to get it done with, I think, Chad blame it on the Henny at quarterback. The second time, that was on a Sunday night, like 2 or 3 years ago. The second time, so that was 3 years ago, because 2 years ago, that was the lone start for Jordan Love. That was the whole controversy with Aaron Rodgers and COVID and him saying that he got a test and he didn't really get a test and this, that, and the third. So he had to sit out one game, and that was the Chiefs game. So we've never gotten Rodgers v. Mahomes. We're finally going to get it, I hope, week 4, Sunday Night Football. That'll be a massive game early in the season. Week 5 at Denver. Week 6, home for the Philadelphia Eagles. Then a week 7 bye for the Jets. So, and come off that bye, week number 8, you're at the Giants. Week 9, you're on Monday Night Football at home versus the Los Angeles Chargers. So that'll be a fun game with 2 upper echelon quarterbacks duking it out. Week 10 at the Raiders on a Sunday night. So 2 prime timers back to back, this time on the road, Sunday Night Football at the Raiders. Week 11 at the Buffalo Bills. That'll be a big one, and that'll be your second and final matchup of the regular season. Those 2 teams may meet in the playoffs. Who knows? But that'll be your final regular season matchup with the Buffalo Bills. Week 12, home for the Miami Dolphins. That'll be the first time you see the Dolphins. That's the Black Friday game there. All right, I'm not happy about that because I like to do Black Friday shopping. However, I will probably find myself in front of a television by the time this game hits the air. Home for the Atlanta Falcons in week 13, home for the Houston Texans in week 14. Let's stop right there. 3 straight home games for the New York Jets. So you know at some point you're going to pay for that. And so it happens immediately. You get 3 in a row at home, and then right after that, you get 3 out of your final 4 on the road at the Dolphins week 15, home for the Commanders week 16, at the Browns week 17, and that's on a Thursday night late in the season. That's the final Thursday night football game of the year. And then at the Patriots week 18 to finish up. So 3 out of your final 4 games are on the road. So I said all of that to say this. They give me Brady and Buck vibes from 2020. I think this is they were 7-10. I think they're a 12-5 team this year. Unfortunately for them, however, their 12-5 isn't good enough to win the division. It is good enough though for second place in the division, and they'll be the first wild card team in the AFC. So I've got 3 teams from this division making the postseason: Bills, Jets, and Dolphins. The AFC is complete for me. So you know the 7 teams that I have making the postseason. 3 out of this division, 2 out of the North, the Steelers and the Bengals out of the North. And then I've got the 2 division winners in the other 2 respective divisions, the Jags in the South and the Chiefs in the West. That is it. No one else is making the playoffs out of the NFC. Wait a minute, timeout. I think I have the Chargers making the playoffs. Excuse me. So the Dolphins at 10-7, I think they missed the playoffs. So it's 2 out of the AFC West, 2 out of this division, 2 out of the North, and then 1 out of the South. That's my breakdown. So there you go. Now let's get to social media maneuvers. So just to recap, the 1 seed is the Chiefs. The 2 seed is the Buffalo Bills. The 3 seed are the Jets. Not the 3 seed, excuse me. They're the first wild card. The 3 seed is going to be the Bengals. The 4 seed is the Jags. 5 seed, the Jets. 6 seed is going to be the Chargers. And then the 7 seed will be the Steelers. Steelers will be your 7 seed. So let's get to social media maneuvers. I'm a midday marauder. Y'all know what it is. So want to go ahead and grab couple of comments. Y'all know what it is. Use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air. We're pressed for time today, so if you want your comment read, you're going to have to super chat it more likely than not today, because I got a couple of topics I want to get to. Alan Nudis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Alan Nudis writes, thanks for the great content, LT. Any cut day candidates we should be targeting? Hashtag or HTTC. I mean, it's hard to say because you don't know who's getting cut where. And they like their roster. They like the guys that they're working with. It's going to have to be someone that they really like, you know. And I know like Kyle Soley was a guy that they really liked in the draft out of Arizona State. They weren't going to spend a draft pick on him, obviously, because he went undrafted. But he went to Arizona with the Cardinals, signed there because it was right in his backyard. I think that's where he ended up. If he gets cut, that could be a guy that they may take a flyer on because they really liked him. But, you know, outside of, it's going to be somebody young. It's not going to be a veteran that can come in and help. So if you're looking for that, it's going to be like what we've seen the last couple of years. When the last couple of years, when they've went out and grabbed players from other teams' practice squad, it's been young players like John Ridgway or, you know, Castro Fields or, you know, Rashad Wildgoose. It's been those types of players. It hasn't been a veteran that they can plug and play right away. So it'll be a young guy if they do that anyway. Kevin, the PRF. Stand up. You know what it is. We in the building. Mob member for 16 months. You know what it is. Give me your 16-game record prediction, NFC East versus AFC East. Can't do that because I would be giving away what I think is going to happen in the NFC East. So I can't do that right now. But we can definitely have that conversation after August 30th for sure. Let's see. I got a couple moments. I think I could take a couple comments before we get to the end of the show. HHC Lunar says, we always talk about how Mahomes became a Hall of Fame quarterback or Hall of Famer by showing he could win without Hill. But I think Hill locked up his Hall of Fame case by showing he could put up 1,500 yards without Mahomes. I don't think anybody ever questioned Mahomes' Hall of Fame status with or without Hill. I don't think anybody ever questioned Tyreek Hill's Hall of Fame status. I think both of those guys had already cemented their legacies before they split ways, but Hill probably had a little bit more to do, a little bit more work to do, but we pretty much knew what he was about and what type of time he was on. But to your point, I think both of them have shown that while they probably are better together, honestly speaking, they're just as dangerous apart. So Niners fan writes, what's up, Lou? Excited to be back for the season after a needed break from football following last season. Couldn't have been more wrong about the Lance Purdy situation. I mean, you told me that Lance was going to start the season, that Brock Purdy was going to be out for the first portion of the season, and you were looking forward to seeing what Lance could do. And obviously, well, look, it is what it is. You couldn't have known Purdy would heal so quickly and that Lance would flame out the way that he did. It happens. We've all been wrong about something. So HHC Lunar says, worried about the Jets. When your offseason is too noisy, it affects the team. See last year's Cardinals as an example. The difference is the Cardinals weren't very good, though. You know, they weren't a very good football team. It was noisy, but they weren't very good. The Jets are really good, and they're well coached as well. So it's a little bit different. You're right. Noisiness is not usually good, but noisy is fine if you can handle it. So we'll see if they can handle it. The Bucs season, the year they got Brady, was noisy, right? And they handled it. It was tumultuous. It was up and down. They had their bumps in the road, but they handled it and they ultimately won the Super Bowl. So we'll see. You're right. You're not wrong. Noisiness usually doesn't help, but we'll see what happens. Niners fan says, Lou, in the 2021 draft live stream, we both said the move could get Shanahan-Lynch fired, the Shanahan-Lynch combo fired in terms of going up and getting Trey Lance. All Kyle has done since then is win ball games, but if that stops, he'll be on the hot seat again. That's any coach in the league, though. I mean, winning cures all, right? And you can stomach the Trey Lance situation if Brock Purdy just fills in. Because, again, this is what we often lose sight of, right? Honestly, we make more out of who it is, but the people that make the decisions really don't give a shit as long as somebody is good, right? Great example, Michael Mayock. He drafted Cleveland Farrell in the top 7 of the NFL draft in 2021 or something like that, right? 2020, whatever it was, right? And it was a brutal draft for Michael Mayock. It wasn't when you look at the totality of the draft, but it was brutal because a lot of those young guys that they drafted early in, Henry Ruggs and the Ohio State corner that had to release because of some shit on social media and things he was going through, and then Cleveland Farrell. A lot of those early round draft picks didn't work out. Alex Leatherwood, and it just wasn't really a good use of early round draft picks. But Max Crosby gave them what they were hoping to get out of Cleveland Farrell. So what difference does it make, right? But again, that's not how fans interpret it. You traded all those draft picks to come up and get Trey Lance, and you may get what you were hoping to get out of Lance, out of Brock Purdy. Who gives a shit? You got a franchise quarterback. He's winning you a bunch of games. If that happens, who cares? But the fans aren't going to just let it go, right? They just can't get over the fact that it's not Trey Lance. But at the end of the day, Washington fans couldn't let go of the fact that it wasn't Robert Griffin III. Who gives a shit? Kirk Cousins is winning us ball games. Just roll with it, right? But fans can't get over the fact that it's not the guy that it was supposed to be. I encourage fans to not be so fixated on who it isn't, but just realize who it is. One of the guys worked out for you. That's what should matter. Not the guy that went in the first round, but the guy in the fourth round worked out. Who gives a shit? Just want one of the guys to work. So that's what the 49ers fans are going to have to wrap their brains around. I'm seeing a lot of 49ers fans frustrated that Trey Lance didn't get a fair shot in San Francisco. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. He couldn't stay healthy. And in the NFL, you know what it is. When you get hurt, you open the door for another guy to take your job, especially when you haven't established yourself in the league yet. And that's exactly what happened to Trey Lance. Alan Nudis, stand up. You are the newest member of the MOBB. You know what it is, mob. Show Alan Nudis some love. Open arms. Welcome him. Show him how it is to be a member of the MOBB. Alan Nudis, welcome to the squad. Glad to have you. Mr. Pink, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Mr. Pink writes. Oh, first of all, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Lou, tell Cam to put a little less cheese on that thing. He needs to put more cheese on it because the shit is dribbling back to damn Tress Way. It ain't enough cheese on it. That's why the shit dribbling back there. All right. Put some more cheese on that bitch. That's the problem. We need more, not less. Oh, man. Anyway, thank you for that super chat, Mr. Pink. So let's get to our final segment of the show. And garbage time. A lot going on in the National Football League. So this garbage time is going to act as a de facto 3 and out. All right. So first down. 6 teams inquired about JT. So we had this conversation on Tuesday's show about how the Colts kind of set this thing up because they know they're not going to trade him and they know no one's going to give them what they're asking for. And it's not that it's late in the offseason as much as it is what they're asking for, they're just not going to get. And, 10 anonymous, I hate when they do this, but 10 anonymous GMs and front office personnel have already come out from 10 different teams have come out and said they're not going to get anything more than a day 2 or 3 pick for him. You're not getting a first round pick. A day 3 pick is what I think the article said. I don't believe that. I think you can get more than a day 3. I think they're trying to bring the value down, so to speak. Yeah, right. You can get a day 2 pick for Jonathan Taylor. I don't think you're getting a first round pick because of the fact that you have to pay him too. I mean, it's the same dilemma that you run into with a guy like Austin Eckler. We talked about that already. They know they're not going to trade him. They know no one's going to. They may have got some serious calls, with real offers, and I heard 2 teams actually made an offer, but it's not going to be for a first-round pick. Now maybe you get somebody desperate enough to give you a second, a third, a fourth, in the vein of a 49ers trade with the Panthers for Christian McCaffrey. But keep in mind, McCaffrey is a do-it-all back, can catch it out of the backfield. He's such a Swiss Army knife. That's not what Jonathan Taylor is. He's a pure running back. He's more in the Nick Chubb mold. So I can't see anybody giving up what the 49ers gave up to acquire Christian McCaffrey. But that is that. Cardinals trade Isaiah Simmons. Second down. Cardinals trade Isaiah Simmons for a 7th rounder to the G-Men, which prompted DeAndre Hopkins, new Tennessee Titans wide receiver, to come out and say that the Cardinals got fleeced. He's seen Isaiah Simmons athletically in person at practice every day. He knows what this kid is capable of. He made the permanent switch in the offseason to safety. And I don't know what the Giants are going to do with him. They could utilize him as a safety. They could use him at linebacker. He's got a wealth of speed and talent. It's amazing that he was shipped off for a 7th round pick. I've got a lot to say about that. I'm going to save it for later on tonight, however, when I'm talking to the Washington fans, because I've told them about this already. I don't think they're listening, however. So this is a great teaching tool for them to see what life could be like here in a little bit. And then they also traded Josh Jones, the tackle that I think they took in the 2nd round just 3 years ago. This is his 4th year in the league. So he's on the last year of his rookie deal, and I'm pretty sure they gave him away for a half-eaten bag of chips. And remember, a bag of chips is usually already half air, and then half of that is gone too. And that's probably what they shipped Josh Jones off for, like a conditional, 7th round pick or something. Like, yikes. This guy started 11 games for them last year. They probably just gave him away. I don't know what the compensation was, but the Texans are like, out. No, hey, thanks. We'll take him. So they're giving stuff away. They got a yard sale going on in Arizona. 3rd down. Injury Reaper is out. Watch your stuff. It is 3rd week of the preseason. Put your shit in bubble wrap. All right. Your shit shouldn't be out there this time of the year. Okay. Be careful. That's all I'm going to say to you. Jerry Jeudy out several weeks with a hamstring injury. Terry McLaurin, week 1 in doubt right now with a turf toe injury. So again, just watch your stuff closely. I'm not telling you to not, put your stuff out there, but I'm just telling you, keep a watchful eye. I wouldn't put my stuff out there if I were you, but the Jets are putting Aaron Rodgers out there. So, hey, just watch your stuff. That's all I'm saying. And then finally, 4th down, Sam Darnold named the backup in San Francisco. We kind of just touched on this with Trey Lance, but once more, Trey Lance is now being shopped again. And he didn't have any value before the season, before the offseason technically got really underway. So he's probably not going to have any value now after the preseason has come and gone and he's played and he's been okay, but he hasn't been really all that, inspiring. Again, that's why Sam Darnold beat him out. This is not news to anyone who watched the 49ers in the preseason. Darnold has been the more consistent of the two in terms of backup quarterback play. So now what for Trey Lance in San Francisco? Kyle's done with him. You can see the frustration on his face with Trey Lance. And remember, and I really do believe this, he never wanted Trey Lance in the first place. I thought Trey Lance was the right man for the job. I thought he would fit Kyle Shanahan's offense better than Mac Jones. But we know Mac Jones is more of a Matt Ryan type, and that's who Kyle Shanahan really wanted, was Mac Jones. So I don't think Kyle is losing any sleep over this. And now that Brock Purdy's playing good football for him, he's definitely not losing any sleep over this. So that's a dynamic that's worth, following in San Francisco. It's a messy situation, honestly, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, I digress. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the 358th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I thank you guys for joining me. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys next week. All right, you probably will see me over the weekend. If anything catches my eye, including the Jets game, and I got some time, I may jump on. If not, you'll see me next week. And next week will be big. College football is back this weekend. College football is back. Notre Dame, my Fighting Irish, taking on Navy. A slew of other teams, including USC, getting their season kicked off this week. So college football back. And football is back. We're about to get into the swing of things, man. Don't you love this time of the year? Boy, I know I do. Anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T, here on the 358th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I think I already said that. Anyway, you guys get out of here. I'll see you guys next time. Take care. God bless and good night.
LouieTeeNetwork.